evening, everyone. Welcome to the Omega Files. I'm your host, Dr. Freedom, and tonight we've gathered to have a little talk about demons of the Punjab. Wait, somebody's not muted, but shit happens. I'd go into it a bit, but I want to hear your guys' views on it. So I'm going to start when I call your name. Please feel free to go ahead and give us your opening thoughts on this particular episode. Now over the halfway point, kind of scary, ain't it? All right, let's do something a little different. We're going to start in the top right corner this time with Philip Archer. Go ahead.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I like this episode because it was very well crafted, with a lot of emotional tinges to it. And I like the fact that I actually thought at one point that Yazzie was going to push the doctor so far in regards to interference that she was going to go, right, I'm taking you home, and I'm not taking you with me again anywhere else because you're pushing the envelope too much. It's understandable that the two lads didn't get much to do. They were in the background this time. This was more or less Yazzie's story, and I think it's good because it fleshed her out a bit more. And I kind of sort of like felt for her a bit more. I understood her now. Her family, the nan, that was sweet. With the encoder about the watch, that was all nice. The villain, well, not the aliens. I'm not going to call them villains because they weren't. That surprised me because I thought they were going to be really, as they were, the demons of Punjab, but they weren't. They were like honorary priests looking out for the dead, and that was a nice little thing. The brother thing, the thing about the subplot about the brothers, that was nicely handled. I was surprised he got that they shot the one brother, while the other brother allowed his friend to shoot their brother, and that was a bit like, oh my god. And then also at the end of the episode, where they give the theme tune a Hindu type send off, that was nice as well. I enjoy that. It's a good episode, and I watch it again and again, to be honest.
All righty. Okay, AJ, your turn. Go ahead.
I'm conflicted by this episode. For me personally, I love the historical elements of this story, but for me, the Thajarians, they just didn't work in this episode. Like, they looked like demons. They presented themselves at the beginning as demons, getting in people's heads and growling and all that sort of thing. But it just didn't pay off at the end. They weren't demons or mean aliens or anything. They were just misunderstood creatures yet again, doing something benevolent for other races, which I'm kind of getting sick of seeing non-threatening aliens now. It's ridiculous. What they should have done is they should have just taken the alien element out of this episode and just had a pure historical. And you could have still kept the title, Demons of the Punjab, because, the evil that men do, basically in this episode, which could have worked much, much better along the lines of Rosa a little. I'll get more into the little bits here and there that I didn't like, but basically I just didn't really care for the Jarians in this one.
All righty. Okay, let's hop on over to Callan.
Yeah, I like this one. Yours Gone Mad is just she's beautifully scripted, beautifully acted. What a nice lady. Get the feeling if Missy Ilani saw Yours Gone Mad, they would give her a wide berth. Respect is due. Well, I like her stuff. That'd be nice bit of acting. Yeah, it's all about respect. The demons out in the mind. Again, respect. They don't have to be every alien you're going to meet is going to be horrible and they'll be misunderstood. Just because they look ugly doesn't mean nothing. Anyway, I'll get into some other stuff later, maybe.
Okay. Quick question before we move on. How many here recognized Nanny from The Unicorn and the Wasp? Yes, she played the maid. Okay, Connor.
Yeah, very similar to Rosa, obviously being historical. It was quite macabre, actually. And the concept was great. I liked how they set it up from the idea of her being curious about her nanny's past. Yeah, it was very moving. It wasn't as feel good in the end as Rosa was, so it's quite contrast there. The locale was stunning. What I will say is, I've got to agree with AJ. The demons. The one thing, in fact, it was more annoying this week because, for once, they had a great setup. Her immediately coming out of the TARDIS and being almost taunted by these black and white flashing images of these horrifying demons. Immediately as she left the TARDIS, that was great setup. And then it's sort of like halfway through, it just sort of turns the tables, and you find out that actually they're not the assassins that the Doctor knew that race to be. They were just there to witness people that would die alone. It just kind of like fell apart, and they're just a bit too afraid. I don't know, it comes across like they're too afraid to go for a villain in the series. Like, they don't want an actual villain. They just kind of want misunderstood entities, or, you know, blah blah blah, all of the stuff that you can kind of like, that grey area, rather than going for full on like villain. And of course, when you're wiping out things like the Daleks and the Cybermen for one series, I just feel like you need to go for a villain, really, that can satisfy that, because it's just not being satisfied, and we're 6 episodes in. Again, the character development is the best part of the episode, and it was quite comedic in some places as well, but it pretty much got to be the same sort of praise as I gave Rosa. It's heartwarming. It's well, it's not. In fact, it's not heartwarming, because I don't think that there's a positive out of it, actually, apart from the fact that Umbreen escaped unharmed and managed to build a life in Sheffield. Because in truth, she lost a lot in the span of the episode, and it was kind of, there was no real happy ending to it. So it was kind of like a nice contrast to Rosa. But all the same, I think that the praise has got to be the same for Rosa, even though I preferred Rosa more, to compare the two historicals.
Alrighty then. Okay, let's move over to DWC.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, much more than I thought I was going to. Like everyone's been saying, a lot of emotion, a lot of feel. You've got a lot of great character development with Yaz at last, and finally, no real character development with Graham and Ryan. Thank you. We can leave that for a while. And certainly, the whole setting of Partition, it's certainly a moment of history that I don't really know anything about. I'm not exactly a history buff. We were certainly never taught it in school, so it was very interesting to learn about that. But I also have to echo what AJ and Con have been saying with the Vajarans, that they were pretty much a letdown. They had some great build-up with them, and they looked amazing, but then they just kind of nosedive in their opponent. Although at the same time, I now have a lot more questions about them, because like it was said, they're just there to witness people who would die alone. All right, but they also establish pretty off the bat with this exposition that they're also time travelers. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking, so were they there in the Time War? And the reason I asked that is because the Doctor only heard of them in legend as assassins, and I'm thinking, so throughout the Time War, they completely evaded the Time Lord's detection throughout the. Okay, but nonetheless, those are the questions I have. But why didn't we potentially see them in any other times in Doctor Who where we saw characters die alone? But but that's the side point. Other than the Vajarans, the episode itself, absolutely moving, beautiful. Well, like I said, it's not exactly a happy moment, but it's certainly one I'd probably watch again.
All right, William.
Hey, now everybody. Just like Connor said, it was it's a great character episode, and I also got to agree with AJ that in a way, the aliens didn't really need to be in this story because the change that was happening in history and how the youngest brother was acting, that was a good story plot right there, and that's what makes it right there. I wish in the end of the episode, because of what Connor said, that the ending was not say as Rosa. I wish Yaz would have told her grandmother she was the one that was in the past, considering it was over 70 years ago when that happened. And then that's how come, if you saw in the beginning of the story, her grandmother was giving stuff away, feeling to herself that her time is coming to the end. So in a way, Yaz should have talked up that she was there, and then it could have ended with just them talking about that first husband that passed away like that, and how was their childhood growing up together, and how much she wanted to marry him, as we saw in the episode, no matter what interruption was going on. And her mother was saying, oh, it's bad luck, it's bad luck, it's bad luck, and she still wanted to marry him. So that would have been a good conversation ending like that. But I could say because of the time that I had to cut it down like that. It's unusual because I never heard about this in history. I never heard about it when I was in school. So that's unusual. So I got to look it up myself. And it was a sad thing considering the doctor said that over 1 million people was killed like that. So it was a very tragic thing that happened like that. But I got you got to get what Connor said. It was a great character development. We all got to get props considering it was a better written episode than last week. So that stood out right there. So we talk more about other things in a little while.
All right, let's move on over to Graham.
Oh, no, sorry about that. I enjoyed the hell out of this. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Not that I had any preconceptions going in, because I tend to try and avoid a lot of stuff. I agree with AJ and Connor with regards to the Vajarians, although I'll let that slide, mainly because for this one, I think they demonstrated perfectly how well, for that time period, how well families were ripped apart based on the religion and based on the whole land being divided into two. I get that, okay, well, if you're going by that logic, why the hell are they there? But I think, they're just trying to compensate by throwing out a science fiction element in there. Don't forget, they did maintain that these guys were assassins at one point, so they could easily get back and explore that at a later date. This might be just later on in the timeline. So I can kind of let that slide, although I can see where the disappointment is, because it really was a good setup with the whole, the demons and the head games when they first emerged for the TARDIS and whatnot. I loved the whole subplot with the brothers. But again, it showed the political divide in that period and in that specific time in history. And again, it's one of these stories. It's probably going to be divisive, especially if you're not too familiar with the time period. But at the same time, you can't grumble with the cinematography, and you can't grumble with the music. I get it might not be for everybody, but I enjoyed it.
All right. Okay, let's move down to Texas Tim.
Well, I agree with everybody. I thought it was a good episode. I think it really suffers, though, from the 50-minute format. This story was a very good story. It covers a very busy period in history, and it really can't be told well in 50 minutes. I think this would have made an excellent Doctor Who novel, to be honest, or a longer story. You wouldn't want to give up half your series for a multi-part story covering this, but it moves too quickly. And I'm all for shorthand storytelling a lot of times with some episodes, but this one I think would have benefited from more time. I mean, you have a lot of characters walking around spouting exposition that doesn't come across as real, because they have to explain what's going on to the audience, and they have to tell you what's going on here. And it's a very busy story because you have a wedding going on. At the same time, you have the partition being created on the radio. And then meanwhile, you have this brother that just goes from brother to villain by the end of the episode, and it happens very quickly. Also, you have the twist in the tale that these guys aren't really demons or villains, but they're just actually kind of whatever it is they are. They go and pray at lonely dead souls or whatever, which is all cool. But I mean, all of these things would have made more sense had they been paced out better in the story. That's actually your twist right there. Plus your twist at the end with the villainous brother having his brother murdered on his wedding day. So I think it's a great story. I mean, it's a good story. I just think it suffers from the 50-minute format. I think that's what lets down the story. I think otherwise, most of the aspects everybody has mentioned already, like the direction and the setting and the music and everything were all fine. The acting as well, but I think that this story could have benefited from a bigger platform.
Oh, BKB, beef it.
I'm finding hard a way to sort of like put myself on this because we've gone through a routine of having 2 episodes and then have a serious dialed back one, and obviously there are going to be comparisons to Rosa from this one. I think the historical aspect was more of a backdrop for it, and they're both stories that deal with segregation and separation of people and everything like that. So that's a theme that runs through the two. But what it has showed is that it seems to be written better when it's not Chris Chibnall doing it. Jodie was dialed back, but then again she was in Rosa, and I feel the supporting cast again did outshine her for the most part. Graham was great. I think Prem was great, to be honest with you, to a degree better than Rosa. There's no point in talking about the music and the visuals anymore, to be honest with you, because it's the same thing every week. If you put the money in, you get more out of it. It goes without saying now, and you can't. It's like trying to. Trying to give excuses or being more patient for something on the benefit of something else, which I think, under different circumstances, I think our patience would have dried out a long time ago, to be honest with you. There is the issue of there not being a sort of a threat element to it, to be honest with you, that there's not this thing going up against it. And while this hasn't got to be directly governed by historical fact like Rosa did, I do feel that this was actually probably a better story because it's better rounded. I do agree with Tim that it suffers a bit from the 50-minute format, but I don't think there's either enough in it for 2. So it's a real hodgepodge. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it, if I'm honest, more than Rosa. But the thing is that I'm sort of feeling apathetic at the moment. It's a good story. It's fine, but I'm sick of saying every week it's fine because there's nothing to sort of say. There's no oh my god moments to it anymore. It's sort of more of the same. So I'm really struggling to find out where I actually fall on this one. It's tough, to be honest with you. So I mean, we'll get into the whys and wherefores, but weak villain. The supporting cast is great. Jodie's just more of the same again.
OBKB. Okay, and last but certainly not least, Paul, go on ahead.
Well, after last week, I went into it hoping that this episode would be a lot better, and I have to say, I think it is a lot better. I don't know whether it's because of the day, what day it is today, with the Remembrance Sunday, but I think this episode, with me, was a lot more emotional than perhaps it might have been on a different day. I'm not sure. But, I found it quite emotional, this one. I enjoyed it. I disagree with some of the people with regards to the alien. I actually enjoyed the aliens and what turned out to be they were there to comfort the people, at the time. For me, I think the reason why they did it like that was basically because they were trying to kind of comfort the viewers who may have lost somebody who died, but maybe they were on their own and they were getting into that, so it might sort of make them feel better about themselves, maybe. For me, that's what I got out of that. What else? I enjoyed the cast. I thought the cast were a lot better this week. I think Graham was really good towards the end with how he was with Prem. There's not a lot more I can say really that everybody else hasn't said, but I think overall I really enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it as much as I did Rosa. Okay, I'll talk about different things later on. There was one thing that Tim said though, 50-minute format. I want to go into that later on, see what you guys think, and then when we put this up on YouTube later on, perhaps we can get some comments from the viewers as well, see what they think. Okay.
Oh, BKB. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I like the fact that they kind of used the aliens in a way to distract you from the true villain, who turned out to be, the brother. And that's what I think that what the whole point was. You're so focused on this alien threat that you don't see the domestic threat right there in front of you. You assume, okay, they're trained to be assassins. As far as the doctors know, that that's what they were. But then you find out at the end that due to some unforeseen circumstances that even the doctor didn't know about, that their society had taken another turn, and that what was left of them, were now comforting those who die alone. And I thought that was a really nifty angle, because it literally distracted you from, the real threat. Also, the payoff with the watch. That was very, very moving, with the reason why the watch should not be fixed. It's because it commemorates that moment in time. And I thought that was very, very touching. But I want to hear your guys' views on it. Let me see if we got some hands up yet. Oh, there's Philip Archer with his hand up first. Go on ahead.
My only gripe at the moment with this story is regarding to Jodie again. She's sort of gone back into a kind of goofiness kind of persona again. And unlike what someone said earlier in the talk, that they should give her, basically throw into the fire again. Give her something to really get her teeth around. She doesn't seem to be getting anything to really, show us her as a doctor. She still seems to be drawn back a bit. And I just want something a bit more from her again this time around. Although she was good although she was kind of a bit more in this episode, there's still something missing from me. Something missing. That's all.
Okay, Texas Tim?
Well, to go carry on with that, I think it's a horrible mistake to think that you can do that just because one of your new friends says, "Oh, can't we just go back and see Grandma when she was a kid?" No, you don't do that. You don't do that if you're a Time Lord or a doctor, because it's asking for trouble, and she should know better than that. I think they could have gotten around that by making something that they had to go back and find out. But again, there's not enough time to establish anything like that. So, I mean, that was just a really rookie mistake for the doctor to do. And they're lucky they got out without her undoing Yaz's timeline or something worse. Again, it's all about how much time they have to play with. And it just seems like something any other doctor would have said, no, we don't do that.
I know. What kind of remind me of what the look on the doctor's face when Yasmin first asks her to do this is like, oh my God, remember the last time I did something like this? The mess that came out of it, back during, Father's Day. Yeah, that turned out really well, didn't it? Okay, Connor.
Two things, really. I have to actually thank Vinay Patel for one particular thing. The sonic screwdriver in this episode was getting borderline annoying by the time that she actually said, "Oh, it's broken, I'm going to go analog," because she was pointing it at everything. It was solving the problems just like that, and it's not good writing. I don't see what the current obsession of like the last 5 to 10 years has been of using the sonic screwdriver as a get-out card for everything. Shortcut, lazy writing. And finally, he sort of said, well, we've used it enough in this episode. It's getting annoying. I'm actually going to almost cut it off where like she can't use it for a little bit again. And then I'm actually going to go analog. And then she started to build something that was interesting. And it was an interesting resolution, even though that didn't really play out as planned because she got teleported to the ship. Another thing is also the use of the little radio snippets was very, very harrowing, and it kind of added to the score as well. It would be reminiscent, I would think, of like using something from, obviously as today is a pretty important day for it, something from, say, World War I or World War II. And I think even at one point they did it while showing a field of poppies. So it kind of like just brings that real element into it, and it is kind of harrowing to hear something like that. But the sonic screwdriver has just, as trivial as it is in the context of the episode emotionally, it's borderline annoying at this point, and I just wish that they would do more of that analog stuff, because even if it's just spending 2 minutes watching her build something, it's far more interesting than seeing her point that thing at anything just to solve a problem in 10 seconds.
Okay, Texas Tim.
Well, to answer Connor's question about that, I agree with him 100% on the sonic screwdriver. Unfortunately, it's not just lazy writing, it's marketing. They want to sell these toys and people do buy them. And that's pretty much what that's all about. It's become a trend, like you said, over the last decade or so, that the doctor waves it around. It's like a wand. It's like a Harry Potter thing. So, I mean, it is what it is. And there's no getting away from that. I would agree with you. I wish that was something they could do about that, like destroy the damn thing for once and for all for once, but they're not going to do it anytime soon.
Yeah, they aren't going to be allowed to get away with Doctor Who the flamethrower. Okay, AJ.
Yeah, I was going to agree with Connor about the screwdriver. It felt kind of like the Third Doctor a little bit, where she was building a laboratory set for detecting what that substance was. Also, we're 6 episodes in, and we only just touch on the TARDIS being psychic now. I mean, if you're a new viewer and you didn't know the TARDIS was psychic, it would freak you out a little. So I'm just kind of shocked they only mentioned it 6 episodes into the series for new people.
Okay, Beef.
Look, don't get me wrong. Like I say, where I've had sort of, good feelings about this and other mixed feelings. The thing that I'm struggling with this, and I don't know how the rest of the guys feel or anything like that, is that, every episode is supposed to be a jumping on point. But to be honest with you, what's this doing to get new people actually watching it at the moment? Because it's sort of, there's a lot of character driven things, and if you want to get like young kids watching it, you want to get them involved in it. Yeah, you've got a cool looking alien that really doesn't amount to much. There's no real threat. There's no excitement, for want of a better description. There's very little actually that you see of the TARDIS so far this series, and you're like 2/3 of the way through now, and it's sort of everything is. It just feels a lot of the time that I'm making excuses or trying to find reasons for it, and under any other, when we've had previous doctors come into the role, we've done previous episodes, we've been saying, no, this just isn't good enough. And it's like, now it feels like I'm making excuses, and I'm just feeling a bit apathetic. It's sort of like, well, I'm just going through the motions every week. I don't know if anyone else is feeling the same way.
Okay, William.
Well, I'm going to say that how Graham stood out because there was this girl was going to tell her grandma not to get married, and Graham gave her that look, and then outside said, don't try to bust this up because you don't know what's going to happen like that. So he stood out pretty good right there, explaining to her because what could have happened if the marriage didn't happen at first. I gotta give also credit for Jodie for doing a good part of as a doctor in this episode, but she gotta stop making those stupid faces, man, when she does her reaction, man. That really pisses me off. That's like you see that's a kid doing that when they want to get attention, man. Give me a break. And I gotta agree with Connor, man. The Sonic, man, gotta stop overusing it too much. You gotta stop overusing it because it's getting to be more annoying, man. Us who talk before we recorded that, we joke about how other ways the Sonic could be used like that because it's almost the answer to everything is the Sonic. I mean, come on, man. When she did that thing and created that thing, that was pretty great. I hope they could do that more often because, like Beef said, we're already 2/3 through the season like that. I don't know what's gonna happen. And I gotta tell this guy, man, you gotta put a villain in the story, man. I mean, whether it was a great villain or a bad villain like that, you gotta put a villain in that sticks out as a threat to scare these people who are traveling well, whether they want to continue traveling well or they want to go home and start living their normal lives again. So you got to put that in, man, because this is not all fun and games, as we all know. The doctor has seen some of her companion, his or her companion pass away, so we gotta show that in the season. Whether they're gonna do it in this season like that, that's beyond the point because we already saw it in the first episode, but that was because we had a handful of people in the TARDIS. We had to get rid of one way or the other. So this has to be thought carefully at that. But as for the alien threat, I could see them appearing and maybe in the big finish, in the past as maybe somebody that were hired to maybe try to get rid of the master or something like that. I mean, that'd be great to see that in the audio like that. But we heard in this episode, the doctor had never met any of them. So the doctor interacting with, would not be feasible in Big Finish like that. But it'd be nice to see them in audio facing the mask or something like that.
Okay, Graham.
I'm just to pick the guys up on her whole assemblance of what the lab components. I'm curious, what the hell does she want to do with chicken shit? That one was a needle scratcher for me. To pick beef up on his point about apathy and making excuses and all that. Hey, what can you do, man? This stuff's not going to be for everybody. Obviously, beef's got his interpretation. Other folks will have theirs. I'm not quite at that stage yet, but different strokes for different folks. If you don't like this, you're going to have to ride it out.
Well, chicken poo, I can tell you for a fact, makes a great fertilizer. So that's what I'm assuming. It has something to do with the chemical makeup of it. Because I can tell you right now for a fact, my grandma always said, if the best thing, if you want to grow tomatoes, is chicken shit. I'm not kidding. She always said that. Okay, Texas Tim.
Well, to Beef's point, I get where he's coming from. But to be fair, anytime you came in on this show could have been a starting point. And again, I don't think that, anybody who has a knowledge of the show like we do is going to be maybe disappointed that we don't get what we want to see each week. But if you think about when did you hop on this show back in the day, I mean, chances are you might not have seen the TARDIS inside for a whole series, because that happened. You didn't see it for a whole series. I think Brian mentioned the first episode he saw was Centauran Experiment, and he didn't even know about the TARDIS because they were in the middle of an arc that didn't use the TARDIS. So, I mean, for example, that's a legitimate complaint that you're just now seeing parts of it, because obviously New Who is different from Old Who, and you would have expected them to like show it off a bit more. But I mean, I don't think this is actually a bad place to start watching it if you've never seen it before. It's hard to judge that, being somebody that has known the show so well for so many years. But I would say that any hopping on point might be confusing or different for any individual person. So, I mean, obviously this is directed towards a younger audience, hence the historical bits they're trying to teach now. I mean, each episode there's some kind of learning, some kind of lesson they're trying to come across with as far as behavior or history. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think you kind of get old to older fans like everybody in this room. So what can you do? Like Graham said.
Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the sonic screwdriver. I don't actually think she overused it in this episode. She used it once at the beginning, and then there was another time just before she was making all this stuff, and I think that was about it. So, but with regards, I think she looks more natural using it now. She's not doing a pose anymore. It just looks natural, like she's walking. I thought that was brilliant. I thought a lot better now. So, yeah, I didn't think she was overusing it this episode.
Yeah, I was wondering was someone was going to bring that up. She didn't strike the pose this week. She actually just used it, with a normal flow. Plus, I agree with Paul that they did not really overuse it that much this week. She did use it once to trigger, the transmat corridor, and then the rest of the time she just confiscated their own equipment and locked them out of it. And I don't even think she used the screwdriver to do that, did she? She just reprogrammed the transmat modules. Plus, I agree with everybody else. The building of the chemistry set and all that, brilliant. Plus, I'm shocked nobody has brought up the fact that, towards the beginning we had her in, once again, the smock and the welder helmet and all that stuff working on the TARDIS. I thought that was very, very doctorish myself, because we've seen just about, every doctor monkeying around with the TARDIS going back to God knows when. And I thought that was very, very nice. She's trying, maybe in a way she's trying to get to know the new one, maybe do some modifications. We don't know. Okay, let's hop up to AJ.
Just about the screwdriver, I think they should dumb it down back to the series, classic series, where basically it had very minor functions, electronic locks, setting off landmines, whatnot, just to be a massive Swiss Army knife in a pocket. It's just ridiculous. It's getting beyond a joke now. What's it going to do next? Make banana milkshakes? And just about the supporting cast, the Indians and all that. I thought they were just absolutely brilliant in this episode for the historical effect and of the storytelling. And Graham being very prolific, I think, this episode. Basically, just because he lost his wife not too long ago, so he's become a little bit more of a knowledgeable old man in a way, you know, telling these younger people, you know, slow down. Life is about bumps and speed bumps and, you know, ups and downs. You're going to have that happen to you. So I think he's like the grandfather sort of figure for the series.
Okay, Philip.
Okay, AJ did take my point away at the beginning there with the Sonic, about the Sonic, so I won't talk about that. It was a bit jarring for me to sort of, when the episode started, we find Yaz back at home. And I wish they would give us some sort of linking that they just come back from an adventure rather than just plonk us straight back into, you know, homeland setting. And what was the other? There was something else. There was something else. It just got out of my head. Don't worry, it's got out of my head. I'll come back to it if I find it. Okay, thank you.
Well, they did make a reference to another adventure in the episode. Remember, I forgive me for the what was it? The Something Eye Death Turtles.
Yeah, but you know, it's just kind of like, I know it's trying to give us a sense of time has passed between some episodes and, you know, some adventures here and there, but it's kind of jarring for me. And it's like, oh, they're not out in space; they're back at home again, and it's a bit jarring. That's all for me, a little bit.
Okay, DWC.
I just wanted to kind of further echo Tim's point to beef about really any episode being a jumping on point. I mean, what do you expect from series? I mean, my first Doctor Who, honestly, my first memory of Doctor Who, I must have been about 2 or 3 years old, sitting on my mum's lap, and I can't remember the name of the episode now. It's one of John Pertwee's Dalek episodes, but it's this shot of a Dalek confronting the Doctor and a file saying, "The prisoners will stand. The prisoners will stand." And by God, that terrified me as a child. And as far as the show itself, when I watched it proper, my first adventures were Doctor Who and Silurians and Genesis of Daleks. And I think all of us know there's no TARDIS in that. I didn't even know that it was about time travel, but it was still something that fascinated me, and I did still want to know more. And of course, it was John Pertwee and Tom Baker. Again, I didn't even know that there was regeneration involved. I thought it was just an idea of you've got the actor is replaced and you just suspend your disbelief from time to time and accept that this is the character. I didn't even know about regeneration until I saw it happen. But yeah, kids they will watch this show and they will find something in the show to latch onto and think, oh, I might want to watch the rest of that. I don't think you have anything to worry about in that area.
Okay, Paul.
I've actually forgotten what I was going to ask you now.
Okay, if you think of it again, go ahead. All right, Connor.
Back to the Sonic. When you can use stuff like chicken shit and uck spit to remedy the episode, I don't see why the Sonic has to be used at all, because it's not hard to come up with a thing to remedy it then, is it? If you can just use such ridiculous ingredients as that to do anything, it doesn't take a lot of thought. And I just feel like I have to agree with AJ, but I think they should dial it back to where it's just almost a key to a door, really, a locked door. I just don't, it feels lazy. Like, yeah, some of us disagree about how much it was used in this episode, but even still, you just get from it that it's just being used because the being too lazy about dealing with the problem and finding a unique way. The whole point about storytelling is that you take a story and you find a unique twist or a unique way to make it your own. They're just not. Like, every writer was just saying, we have this sonic screwdriver, I'm just going to be Harry Potter and use it like a wand and everything's going to be okay. Like, we've got this get out of jail card all the time, and it's crippling the creativity of the show. And then even then, I think that the sci-fi element of it is lessening because you've just got this one device that can probably summon God if she really wanted it to, you know? Sort of, it just kind of, it feels nonsense to me at this point that they would use the sonic screwdriver like that. But I mean, it's been a thing since Matt Smith. So I mean, probably 7 years too late complaining on that. But
well, that argument's been going on for decades, to be honest with you. you can't really apply it to this one episode. And also, like I said, the chicken shit and the saliva and all that, that's just good basic chemistry. You have your nitrates, you have your acids and all that in the saliva. And one that she was just using it to break down the chemical composition of the stuff they found on the dead priest or dead wise man, however you wish to address that particular person. So, that's just basic chemistry 101. That's not a biggie. Okay, beef.
So just clarifying my point, guys. I was just like, I'm not. I just used the TARDIS as an example, but where they've said that this year there's not going to be any, where DWC says, the first one he saw were Daleks, and obviously they're quite a vision on the screen, and they're quite evidently villains of the piece. There's a lot of, so far, I think a lot of emphasis, and the better episodes have been the drama ones, and there's been a lot of character driven, as opposed to something where you've got a real threat or a monster that is just a monster. And when they've complained that sort of, the viewing figures, they're doing good for some reason, they're doing well and everything like that. But I want I'd like my kids to be, enthralled by it. I want young kids to do it and everything like that. And it's a case of, I'm struggling to see what would be something to say, latch on and say, oh wow, I watched a bit where a brother killed another brother because the wedding went wrong and everything like that. And that's a good reason for them to come back next week. It's sort of, I want there to be a bit more of the fantastical to it for a younger audience. No one cares about us old guys who watched it for years and years and years to a certain degree. They'll just leave us because we're the guys who moan in the dark corners of the internet where, strange things happen. But, if you want there to be a future ongoing with the show, then there has to be that, to be honest with you. We've already had the thing that Chris Chibnall moaned about in the Ghost Monument, which was people running down corridors, running away from shonky-looking villains, and that was something that he lambasted, them about in the 80s. So, he's his own worst enemy. The best episodes are the ones that have been written by someone else, but I want ones that are written by someone else that just aren't historical now.
Okay, Philip.
Going back to this TARDIS thing that we were talking about, I don't understand how the classic season was quite able to put together sets to extend the TARDIS, and they can't achieve it in this day and age. Because I'd like to see, an episode start out with, say, like Yaz or, some of the companions chilling out in the TARDIS in one of their rooms doing something or walking down a corridor, and then you can come out of there, and it's just to give the TARDIS a sense of space. Because that one set looks so small and just, on its own, it doesn't give that TARDIS a sense of wonder. And I just wish they could extend it a bit and give us a little bit more of it than what we got.
Yeah, but we never really saw much of Eccleston or Tennant's interior, did we? Other than the main console room?
I know, but
even though we knew there was more to it, we didn't really see that.
Yeah, but when you've got a team like that, you don't want them all to be crowded around in one room. You want to see them, in that room or that room, and then come together in the main room when the TARDIS land and go out and do their adventures. That gives it more of a tighter feel, I reckon.
Oh, Paul.
Going back to the sonic screwdriver again, Connor was saying it was Matt Smith that was over. I think it went back to Tennant. Tennant was using it a lot as well. So yeah, with beef, I think with regards to kids enjoying it, I think if you look at social media, a lot of families are saying how much they're enjoying the program at the moment. Their children are loving it. So, I mean, 50-50, I suppose. I don't know. Another thing, a lot of us have been talking about this 50-minute time slot that we've got. We don't feel that it's given enough. I'm thinking, don't know what you guys think, it'll be interesting. What about if we went back to the 20-minute slot and had it like 4-parters? I know it won't happen.
I'd like to see that.
Would you like to see it? Because I know I would. I think it'll make
Yeah,
the
but
program a lot better.
you got to remember the kind of filming schedules and all that warranted doing serials back then. You're never going to be able to sign a modern day actor to do that kind of grueling schedule. That was one of the reasons why they had to cut back the number of episodes going into the Pertwee era, because it had finally drove Troughton nuts to the point that his head was about to explode, because they were filming, almost year round. And, even when they would give them little breaks, you'd see, different characters disappear for a serial or two because they were off getting a break from filming. Because doing it in a serial format, you're literally filming like just about year round, and I don't think they're going to be able to pull that off. It just won't work in the modern day era. You really have to pay those actors out the yin yang. It's just weird, because I know over here in America and all that, we got we have series that pound out 22, 23 episodes a season, but look at how much they're paying the actors, and also the fact most of our series that are based in America are actually filmed in British Columbia to save money on filming. So, it's one of them weird things. I don't think
they don't have to do like a 20-odd episode. They could do like a 13, 14 episode 444, something like that.
Yeah, but still, you have to be filming just about year round to do that. I don't think they can go back to serial even if they wanted to at this point. We're living in an age of Netflix. You have to remember, we're living in an age where streaming services are now the king, where people are used to getting, sometimes an entire series up, at a point, where you'll get 10, 13 episodes, boom, and you can watch it that whole day if you want. I don't know if this whole generation would even have the patience to withstand doing 25-minute serials at this point. I just don't see it happening. Okay, Connor, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Two things about time, actually. Philip, I don't think that they're going to show the TARDIS because of time. They don't have enough time in an episode to do it. And also, I don't even think they necessarily need to go back to the serials. There is actually a precedent being set by former showrunner Stephen Moffat, where you're getting away with series of 90-minute mini movies. Now, if you have 6 mini movies a year of Doctor Who standalone, I think that you could well get away with that, and it would help the story breathe a little bit because you wouldn't have the 50 minutes to sort of constrain it. And also, a lot of big dramas use that sort of time frame for big finales. So if you sort of say, well, because obviously we've had Sherlock do it, and now we're going to have the new Dracula adaptation by Moffat and Gatiss adopting that. I think that even that format where you actually say, well, we're just going to have 6 episodes a year, but actually it's going to be 90 minutes, it's going to be a mini movie. I think it will benefit even more from that, because I think even then people these days like 6-episode series. It's actually very common in the UK, especially, to have 6-episode series, and having them at 90 minutes stretched even over the year. I don't think it has to necessarily be consecutive weeks. So then it wouldn't be too taxing on the actors filming wise. Would serve better than even 10, 15-minute episodes, really.
Yeah, because even look at the success of Sherlock. There was only 3 90-minute episodes a year, and you had 2 very, very high level actors as your leads, and they still managed to pull it off. But at the same time, I really don't want Doctor Who to go down to 3 90-minute episodes a year. That would kind of suck, to be honest with you. Sure, it's 3 well done, well produced movies, but would the fans go with that? That's the big thing. When we started this whole thing out, we were getting, 13 episodes in a Christmas special. Then quietly, we magically lost one going into the Capaldi year. We went back down to 12 and 1. And now we're already back down to 10 and possibly 1. And I don't know if will the fans go for that? That's the big question. Okay, anybody else? Any other questions, inquiries, and all that before we rate this sucker and put it to bed? I see a hand up. It's the Hacha.
I was just thinking, you know how very well done these historical ones are being put out? They're very good. Why can't they maintain that kind of, tightness and, interest in in the contemporary ones? Because the contemporary ones seem to be sort of losing out to the historicals. And I'm hoping that they could kind of raise the bar with the contemporary ones, just as they're doing with the historical ones.
Okay, Connor.
I can actually answer that, and this is my personal opinion, but I think that this is actually quite close to what's happening. With the historicals, they're being risky, they're being daring. With the contemporary and the future ones, they're being bland as hell about everything. The stories are bland. There's no, you know, but when you have a setting like Rosa or the Partition, you've got a drama there because it's an interesting time period that's actually quite a black and dark day for the people that are in that episode. So you've got the drama there already. With the contemporary ones, you're just being put in a house with a family, and like with Arachnids in the UK, you know, there's a hotel being infested by spiders, and that's it. There's no sort of like dramatic weight behind it, because it feels with the historicals they're being slightly more weighty and dramatic about it rather than extending that to every week. And I think that that's what is suffering this time around. I think that the 3 historicals that we will get this year will be the standouts for that very reason.
Okay, AJ.
Same point. I believe the historicals are far, far more interesting of a story to tell than anything that can be told in a contemporary setting. As we all know, history is a really important part of us, and we learn from it. Whereas if it's a contemporary or future story, you can sort of go off the rails with it a little bit. So I agree with Connor that the historicals are far more interesting than anything else that could be told now or in the future story context.
Okay, DWC.
Kind of in a similar point. I mean, ultimately, when you come with historicals, you have, well, history is history. It's effectively written for you. You can effectively choose really interesting parts of history and write around it. Whereas with contemporary stuff, honestly, anything contemporary would just require some original writing and actual imagination. And say what you want, imagination is frankly quite hard.
Okay, Texas Tim.
Well, I was just going to stress that the 50-minute format actually does work sometimes for Doctor Who. In fact, it works more often than not. My point was this story was just a bit too broad and a bit too busy of a time to give the story justice. I mean, it ended up being, it felt compressed. You know what I'm saying? In other words, it could have been better in a wholly different format. Also, to get back to what Beef was saying, I agree with you 100%. But don't you think the show has a lot more competition now? Like Brian mentioned, Netflix and all the Marvel movies and TV shows and all. In other words, Doctor Who is still getting by in its own little world, whereas back in the day, I mean, it didn't have much competition. In fact, competition is what eventually killed it in the late 80s, because you suddenly had all these expensive-looking American programs coming over that kind of, you know, so they kind of just threw up their hands and said, we can't do that. So I would say that, is that not a factor in what you were trying to say about it not picking up enough younger viewers?
I say, I don't know what everybody's going nuts about on viewers anyway, because even last week, everybody was going, the show's dying. They only got 6.12 million viewers. And I go, yeah, and it was still the second highest rated program of the week. And it still was doing pretty well in the 18 to 49 demo, which means, like Tim just brought up, you are starting to get some younger viewers on board. And that's what they're looking for, is that 18 to 49 demo, because I hate to say it, but it's a classic slogan of the cigarette company: hook them while they're young and keep them going, you know? And that's what they want to do. They want to bring younger viewers in, because a lot of us oldsters are like going, I've had enough of this. Or you have, you know, folks who started watching in 2005 who've grown out of it and moved on. Plus, another thing about the Sonic argument, it just popped into my head a couple minutes ago, was that was one of the reasons why they got rid of it all the way back during the Davison era and the Visitation. There were people going, the sonic screwdriver can do anything, including wipe your own ass at 50 meters. And, you know, people were getting sick of it. So Pterodactyl zapped it, and you didn't see it again all the way till the 96 movie. Sure, you had the Colin Baker with the sonic lance, but you didn't see the screwdriver itself again until you had, by the way, nifty trick. If you're watching the 96 movie, until you had Sylvester point it the wrong way to close the box the master was in. But they did try to computer edit it to make it look like he was pointing it the right way, but he was actually pointing the base at the box when he hits the switch. So nifty little nitpicky thing if you want to look for it. Also, another nifty little nitpicky thing that we all noticed is if you watch this episode all the way towards the end, we did see something that we haven't really seen, thanks to camera angles and all that up to now, is there's the scene where, you know, she's talking to Yaz in the TARDIS before they go back to the present, and you actually finally get to see the little tops of the columns moving up and down with the time rotor. So there's another thing you want to go scan for if you haven't, you know, if you didn't catch it the first time around. Thank me later. Say, Dr. Freedom, you're awesome. Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll rate this sucker and put it to bed. It brought up a lot of different arguments I didn't actually expect, but here we go. Okay, starting at the bottom this time with Paul. How do you rate Demons of the Punjab out of 10?
Well, I found it poignant. Thought it was well. Best thing about it wasn't written by Chibnall, so that's a big plus for me. But overall, I really enjoyed it, so I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
All right, Beef.
I'm going to give it a 7.5. For me, and obviously listening to all you guys talk about it and everything like that, for me, it just seems to be that the elephant in the room in all of this really is Jodie. Is she really up to it? Because I'm just, yeah, I would expect with an episode like this and every episode so far for all of us to really talk about Jodie and enthuse about it. And I think it's got to the point now where I did say perhaps Bland is coming, that there's no real strong opposite to her. And it just seems to be that with, you know, at the end of the day, how long do we give her? How long do we say, oh, you know, that's that point? There's got to be a point where we stop making excuses for it and say, actually, she's not being written that great, or, you know, she just hams it up a bit. I'm losing it. I enjoyed the story at 7.5, but she wasn't really the reason that I scored it as well as I did.
Okay. Texas Tim?
I'm going to give it an 8.5. I thought it was an excellent story that had a lot of good things going on in it that just needed more room to breathe in a larger format.
All right. Graham?
I'm going to concur with Bearded in there. I'm going to give it an 8.5. And despite the nitpick about the alien, perfect demonstration of the time period with regards to the 3 types of religions and the division of the country.
All right. William?
I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. It's not a bad story, but like I already said earlier, there's some stuff that could have been either changed or maybe extended, especially the ending.
Okay. DWC?
Yep, going to give it an 8.
All right. Connor?
I'll give it a 7.5.
All right. Philip?
I'm going to go with the majority and give it an 8 as well. It had good bits to it. The story was well told. The sceneries and stuff was very well lit up, and it looked good. The aliens, I didn't mind them because they stood for the good of the story rather than the bad. So I still think Jodie still needs to extend her range a bit more. But yeah, 8 out of 10.
Hey, AJ?
For me, it's an 8 out of 10. I'm just sick of these non-evil aliens. I want to see an alien try and kill someone or something. I know that sounds sadistic and evil, but it's Doctor Who. You got bad aliens everywhere, for Christ's sake.
Callan?
Yeah, well, to stick to Jodie, she's doing all right. With all the new series Doctors, she's my second favourite Doctor, just because our science fiction's been better than some of the stuff I've heard before. I'm giving it a 9.
I'm giving this episode also a 9. Because, like I said, I don't know what series everybody else been watching, but Jodie was brilliant in this episode. She didn't overact it. She didn't overham it. She was right on. She used her brain. We saw her use other means other than the screwdriver to accomplish a goal. We saw her working on the TARDIS, which I thought was really, really neat. Plus, the reaction alone when Yaz is going, could you please take me back so I can visit my Nana? It's like, oh, really, do I want to walk down this frickin' path again? I've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt. And like I said, I don't know why everybody's upset about her pulling faces, because anybody remember half the faces Pertwee used to pull? Oh my gosh, it kind of looked like Maud on meth. And I'm sorry, it just did. So pulling faces to me is just part of the Doctor's nature. Even Capaldi had his faces. Smith had his faces. Sure, he had a chin that could cut lumber, but and the same thing with Tennant. Tennant pulled faces all the time. Hell, going all the way back to Hartnell with his "I'm really ticked at you" look. So I don't know why everybody's weird and obsessed with that. The fact, because every Doctor's done it, going all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah, Titan would change again. When he'd realised something, his face would entirely change from one thing to another.
Yeah, and even that Troughton face he used to pull, where I couldn't tell if he was under a psychic attack or if he had to take a dump. Come on. Okay, so next week, I believe, is episode 7. Hard to believe that we're this far along in it. 6 episodes in out of 10. It seems like yesterday we were waiting over a frickin' year just to get to the first one. And I believe episode 7 is what, Kerblam, isn't it?
What a name.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the name of this one?
Kablam.
Kablam.
It is right, Kerblam? Okay, I just wanted to make sure if I just did a major flub on the air. So, I don't know. This is the one that's got everybody scratching their heads because we're off to the warehouse. Intergalactic Amazon has gone wrong. But, we aren't going to judge a book by its cover, so we'll wait and see. Join us then, everybody. So take care.
He's got his hand up or something, I think. I don't.
And one last note before we leave. This is Veterans Day weekend, and I'd like you to sit down and just calmly think and reflect and salute your veterans who went out there, fought the wars, bled, and all that for your individual freedoms.
No.
Good night.